Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I'm your host, Vinay, with my co host, Raj. The Lakers just won this Sunday night over the Toronto Raptors. Uh, Lots of stuff to get into. Some things have happened over the course of the week that we want to get into. But the Lakers start off their season, first 10 games, they are 6-4, which is better than being under 500, which is always a good thing. So welcome to the show. Raj, how are you doing? The Lakers just beat Toronto. Kind of a hairy game again, but there are some things that have been good coming out of these past two games.
Yeah. First off, I just want shout out. I was at the G League game the day
Oh
before,
yeah,
and I was at Bronny's debut, which was kind of funny and cool to be at that and see the crowd there. So if you were there and you were able to experience that, tickets blew up to like $200-$300. So it was a really cool environment to see. And LeBron showed up, AD showed up, D'Lo showed up, D'Lo and Rob Pelinka sitting next to each other. Exchanging pleasantries. At least it looked like from far away. And that energy, I feel like it was a weird energy to start this game. I didn't like the body language. I thought it was kind of looked like two teams where I don't know, the Lakers weren't really ready for the physicality Toronto wanted to play with. And it's kind of sad to me that like it took AD going down for everything to pick up. Obviously,
yeah,
LeBron's getting credit for resurrecting the team, which he rightfully did.
yeah,
It's just that, you would hope not to have to be dead for that energy to pop up, but
yeah,
that's kind of what happened tonight. The team looked kind of dead and at its roads, and LeBron with Austin obviously leading the way. Austin, I think, had a 20-point second half, and I have to check. He had 5 points, I believe, at halftime or
yeah.
whatever it was, and finished with I think 27. He was a big part of the drives as well. But yeah, a team that looked like it needed a pick me up, and I'm sure 80's looking on the TV like, where was this? When I was in the game, where's my rebounding help? But yeah, it's a win's a win nonetheless, and this is one they needed before playing, Memphis in a few days.
Yeah. I think we'll get to some of the changes that have happened prior to the Sixers game, but the Lakers won two games against two teams that they should have won the game. Like they should be beating these teams. Like the
Right.
Sixers game was also had some stretches of annoyingness to it. And this Toronto game obviously started off very annoying to us one. And I think they both had the same theme as to why we were down against them, which we'll definitely get into. But Lakers take care of two in a row after coming home after going 1-4 on that road trip, which was quite rough for them to go
Hmm.
to. Just thoughts from this game. I'm with you. I thought AD played a phenomenal first half. I thought he was
Yeah.
crazy. Like I was basically an amazing game up until he got knocked out of the game by getting poked in the face by Jakob Pertl, who then also hit Braun in the face, and I was just
Threw
like,
an
what?
elbow
Like,
down. Yeah.
yeah, like, well, what are we like? At some point, you have to take a look at the dude. But anyways, I thought he played a phenomenal game. I thought Braun and Jackson Hayes really kind of stepped up. I thought Jackson's energy as soon as he came into the game for AD, he was crashing the offensive glass, kind of giving Toronto a dose of like their own medicine because they had like Chris Boucher and I forgot who the other dude was. They're just going in and just flying in to try and grab offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. And a lot of that stuff looked like borderline fouls, and I was just like, all right, I guess we're just gonna do jungle ball. We're not gonna like call anything. But the Lakers, Braun kind of settled everybody down, took control. Started for him and Austin. He kept finding Austin like on every possession to finish
Yeah.
plays, and then Austin was getting one-on-ones against slower footed guys. He had this nice Tony Parker esque left-handed drive, right-handed finish on Jakob Pertl, which I thought was super cool. That's one of my favorite types of shots for point guards to be able to make or guards to be able to make. Um, Great game though, Raj. Like it wasn't. We didn't let it stay close. Once we built
Right.
that lead, we kind of kept extending it.
Yeah, and Toronto, I mean, is a team still figuring it out, right? They just got
Yeah,
quickly back. They're also on a second night of a back-to-back, played a tight game against the Clippers, which they barely lost due to some James Harden shenanigans at the end of that game,
yep,
where Harden I think got fouled and went to the line to kind of win it in regulation, I believe. But yeah, like Toronto's not a good team. They're I believe 2-8 coming in, so now 2-9. But you needed this win. You could not, and I think LeBron sensed that as well, right? Like you could not lose against Toronto. I thought he really stepped it up in the second half, and I think we've talked about this. This is kind of the LeBron you're going to get, and a buddy of mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
talk about that, Raj, because this has been a thing. It happened in the Sixers game. I think you and I have
mhm.
both said we're not really worried about LeBron because we think that if he's playing like this in December, then we should be concerned. And when we say playing like this, we basically mean if he's not like aggressively kind of looking for his shots in those situations where it's like an advantage situation for him,
Yeah,
then we should be concerned. This was another game, Raj, where I would say 2 games in a row now where like Braun is not looking to shoot the ball. Like he's passing up shots, he's passing up one-on-one advantage situations, downhill situations sometimes at times. What do you think is going on there? What is he trying to do?
you know, it's funny because yesterday, you know, during post game, they let us talk to a few of the players, and one of them was Maxwell Lewis, who
Uh-huh.
actually got some end of game regulation, and you know, he was talking about what he's working on. He's like simplifying the game. He's like, not everybody. I tweeted about it, but he basically said not everyone can be Austin Reeves, right? So he basically said like, they're just trying to play simple. And he's like, LeBron doesn't want to shoot right now. And I don't think
Oh,
like he wasn't saying this in
yeah,
like,
yeah.
not like he didn't think he was revealing any deep side
No,
information,
I
but
mean
I'm
we can
listening to
watch
him.
it and see it. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
but I'm like listening to him talk. I was like, oh, like he's like, LeBron does not want to shoot right now, so he wants you to like, he wants other people to be offensively involved. So my job is, and he was talking about in a personal way, like he wants me to kind of have an offensive role where, you know, I take more advantage. That's interesting. That, and I'm sure LeBron's kind of echoed this as well. And you just mentioned with your eyes, you can see that LeBron's very passive early in the start to
Yeah,
games, not in a detrimental way, kind of not like,
yeah,
I mean, not in a way like, let me just stand in the corner, I won't do nothing, but kind of like, all right, you guys play off me. I'm gonna see who's hot, who's not
yeah,
hot. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna drive into 5 guys right now. Kind of
yeah.
like, you know, like I'm not putting my foot on the pedal in any way. Yeah, go ahead.
He's still attacking like he normally does, but he's very clearly attacking to create. He's not attacking to
Sure.
score. That's
Right.
that's the best way I can describe like what I think he's trying to do
Y-
right now.
y- Yeah, and to me, I think it's more detrimental on the defensive end, like in transition defense. I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
extreme. It hurts a lot in terms of when, you know, LeBron just doesn't have the energy to do that. Closeouts aren't the exact same as well, right? A lot of the stuff that you don't see or don't really pop up in box scores. 80 was doing like 1-on-5 rebounding, and like it's already a tough matchup when it's a
yeah.
bunch of guards out there. When it's also LeBron, you know, down there, you know, not boxing out as he should. And again, that a 40-year-old, a 39-year-old has different expectations, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not concerned yet, but I just think this is the LeBron you're gonna get, Vinay, and like the team has to adjust accordingly to that,
So
right? I got
so I guess my question is okay. So let's say Braun is doing this. I mean, we don't have to assume Braun is very clearly doing this deliberately. Like he's on purpose. Raj, there are some times where the ball gets swung around and it gets to him at the top of the three, and he's like wide open. Like
mm,
it's almost like it's designed that like, okay, we're gonna swing this until we get to the open guy, and then you're gonna let this fly. Or we're gonna run the pick and roll or that ghost action screen with the 2 man, and once you get it, you can let this fly. And he's not taking them. Like some games he's taking them. Like I think Memphis game he took some. Sixers game, like if he feels like he's in the groove, he'll take that three. But like I've seen him like catch it, think for a second, and then just continue swinging the ball. And I want to say he did that like once or twice today, where he
hmm
swung it, I think to Rui, or it might have been to Austin. I can't remember who, or maybe it was D'Lo, but somebody on the perimeter. And I was just like, why are we doing that? Like these guys know that you're the guy who should probably take this shot because you're one of our better 3-point shooters this season. So I guess my question is like Roger, like if he flips the switch and goes the other way at some point and he says, all right, you know what? Now I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start taking over the game or I'm going to start looking for my shot. Do you think the team's going to be able to like quickly flip back to that mode?
I, I think that's their natural state. I think their
Mm.
natural state is like LeBron or, you know, whoever is the aggressor in that point. I think where it hurts when there's, you know, again, when you take D'Lo out of the starting lineup and there's less shot creation, more,
Mm-hmm.
teams can kind of load up more, you know, on Austin, or, you know, a lot of times there are a lot of swing, and I don't know what's happened to Rui's jump shot these last few
Dude,
weeks.
he's been off, dude.
Yeah,
He's not hurt. He's just been off.
yeah, he's just missing. He was sick, right? I think he missed 1 game for an
Oh
illness,
yeah,
but
true.
that's been, you know, it's been a few games since then. I also think like some of this is, again, he's a very much a rhythm player, and you know, you take all the post ups away, you take all that stuff out of his game, and you're like, hey, Rui, run baseline to wing and take threes. It's a That's a tough
Yeah.
place for like a player like that to get in rhythm. But yeah, I think that like, and I think the team has kind of gone the other way, Vinay, by like overloading AD's plate, right?
Mhm.
He's like been the offensive guy. I think he's had double digits in the first quarter, the last like 3 or 4
Yeah.
games. He's been the guy they
I
go
mean,
to.
they're aggressively feeding him. Like they're like forcing it to him almost.
Exactly. And I'm sure 80 at first was like, man, this is good. And then it's like, man, I'm overstuffed now. Like, let's get other people involved. Let's let other people eat a little bit as well. And I still think like with the defensive load he has, that's a little too much on his plate on a night to night
Mhm.
basis. But Vinay, I think this is the world you live in. Like my friend that I talk basketball, LA Bound, who has, some people have mixed feelings on his tweets, but he was like, man, I would expect more at $50 million salary. I'm like, well, this is just not how that's just not how this works at all. Like this is not a salary cap
Yeah.
conversation. This is just I think the reality of the situation. And look, the Lakers are winning through it right now. And I
Yeah.
think LeBron has a good pulse on like what the team needs. I think he probably thought that the Lakers can go in and beat Detroit without him putting anything on the pedal, and they weren't able to do that. And I forgot the last game that they played on the road trip, but yeah, like I just think that's the world we live in with LeBron, and the team has to kind of adjust around that.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm very curious to figure out how the team adjusts to all of this, because this is actually, before I get into this, let's address that. That was a conversation point that was on the timeline for like a day or two, and about this idea that, like, you're getting saying that LeBron is 40 years old while he's getting paid a max is like, well,
Right.
maybe he shouldn't be getting
Point.
paid. Yeah, if he
Mm-hmm.
has to play, like, maybe he shouldn't get paid that much. Like he should be treated. Okay, like, I understand that. I understand the sentiment behind that. I think you and I have also discussed this in a very different, in a basketball sense. We took the salary cap out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
I took the number out, and I said, you have two max stars on the Lakers. For the folks that don't know, I'll just quickly rehash it. You have two max stars on the Lakers. Um, if one guy is a two-way guy for sure, offense and defense, and Anthony Davis, and the other guy is a two-way guy, but only when he wants to be a two-way guy, then
Mm.
what do you like? Then what's like, what does that mean? And I just basically, I think the logic that you, or conclusion that you and I both came to, was that's just, it is what it is. Like,
Right.
you can't do anything about that. Like, there's nobody that can override LeBron on the Lakers, JJ Redick included, and be like, yo, run back in transition, like, get it together, or like, yo, go attack the rim, like, get it together. Like, that's not happening. Like, Bron is very unique in the sense that he is a two-way max contract player, but he has, because of his advanced age, he has to manage himself to some degree. This Toronto team is a perfect example of a team where he has to manage himself against, because that team will just try to beat the crap out of him like every
Yeah.
single time he
Play hard
drives the
as hell.
lane. Yeah, and he doesn't get free throws, so he has to manage himself so that he can be fresh for the second half. So I totally understand that. I understand the fans feeling some type of way about it too, but this is just the reality of what the situation the Lakers are in.
Right, and it's not unique to us. Like I remember, like the Clippers touted having two-way wings for a very long time,
Yeah,
right? But if you go ask Clipper fans, how many of like how long in that era did they have two-way wings?
yeah,
Not very long. Maybe the first year was when both of them were really lockdown guys, but after
yeah.
that, they threw the best wing guy on Marcus Morris, I believe
Marcus
was the
Morris, yeah,
Morris Morris they had, right?
yeah,
Like so Marcus Morris would guard LeBron for a lot of games because they didn't want to put Paul George or Kawhi on him. It's just
yep.
kind of the nature of the beast. And obviously LeBron being 39 changes a little bit. But now I'll transition a little bit because I think
Go
this
for
is very dark on a win. So I just want to transition here really quick. And this isn't super positive in a lot of people's lights, but
it. Yeah, what's up?
I think it's a good starting point. Cam Reddish, two
Yes,
starts, two
yes,
wins in
yes,
two starts. Now,
yeah,
not the best teams, so
yeah.
put that into the caveat of whoever wants to. Obviously, Philly and Toronto aren't two great teams, but I think Cam did his job, hit threes
Yes.
in both of these games, hit cuts, was an aggressive cutter.
Mm-hmm.
Got open, had some acrobatic lay-ins as well, like that went in.
Yeah, he's helping jam up the passing lanes and driving lanes with his length. He had a couple
Right.
steals where he just deflected the ball away when the player wasn't looking, or he did his dig action from the side.
Yep.
Um, Cam is playing his disruptor, chaser, all of the roles that we want to expect out of a 3 and D guy. If he gets us some occasional points, that's always nice, because that's kind of what you want out of a 3 and D guy. But go ahead, finish your thought.
Really quick, Vinay, because I've seen this coming up. I just wonder.
Yes.
So he's being called November Cam, all right? Because I guess
Yeah.
this was a rush that came off last year, and people don't want to have the same thing happen to them again. Is there something different here where you're looking and you go, there's some consistency behind this that I didn't see last year, or are you also in the camp of this is early Cam Reddish, production that we saw last year and really tailored off as the season went on. Where are you at I guess in that discussion?
Yeah, so I don't think this is November Cam. I think this
Okay.
is Cam just being put in a very specific role, like he was last year. But the
And
difference
healthy,
is,
right?
but the
Mm-hmm.
difference is that the offensive lineup is now different. It's not Cam
Mm,
plus Torian Prince, uh,
mm,
and D'Lo. Like I think that initially it was like, and then Rui was coming off the bench or something like that too
yes.
at the same time. So I think there's him being the lone defensive guy next to AD. Like that, my
Mm,
focus is only on defense is
right.
different than what it was before. Because before
Mm,
it's like Torian Prince not defending anybody, D'Lo definitely not defending anybody, and then we know what it was with Braun too as well. And so I'm not there to. I'm not out in the camp of folks saying that this is just November camp. I will say it is funny that people are saying that because I think everybody's very like apprehensive about this team after the 1-4 road trip because they're like,
right,
oh
right, right.
crap, we're
Everyone took a
clearly
step
better.
back.
Yeah, everybody's just like, oh yeah, clearly JJ's better than Darvin Ham, and then we go 1-4. They're like, wait, maybe JJ's not as good as we thought. And then I think then the substitution happened. They're like, wait a second, Ham did exactly the same thing last
Right.
year. So what's
Mm-hmm.
going on? So I don't think this is November Cam. I think the situation last year, the reason why it got difficult for Cam and he regressed was because then all of a sudden there was like this expectation where he had to score, like he
Mm,
had to be an offensive threat for the Lakers. And I think it's just been better this time around. Even with Rui's shooting struggles, like the offense seems to be fine. Like the defense is still a little bit of an issue.
right.
Or not a little bit, still an issue. But yeah,
Yeah.
where are you at with that? You think this is a flash in the pan sort of situation, or
Yeah, so I think the one difference too this year, I think Cam is beating out Max Christie again, right? In terms of minutes, but last year obviously you had him being benched for Austin. I'm honestly not sure. I think the shot selection to me was a big thing for him last year,
Mhm.
and look, this is a guy that knows he's out of the league. Like, there's no player option waiting for him at the end of
Yep,
this season. He could be out of the league by next year. So maybe there's a little bit of a wake up call. I've liked the threes he's taken. A lot of them on the swing, open corner. Not a lot of wild. Like, there hasn't been as many wild forays to the rim by Cam. Right? Remember last year there was a lot of like. Maybe this is part of JJ's kind of what you just said, like the role is a little bit more defined in terms
yeah,
of not a lot of ball handling opportunities for Cam in the half court. Really, there's
yeah.
not a lot of he's not running a lot of pick and rolls. There's not a lot of in and out
We're not putting
dribble.
him in actions either. We're just like, no,
It,
this
it,
is your job. We're not going to expect you to do a whole
it,
bunch on offense. Yeah,
exactly. Even the actions he's put in, right? It's really corner series with LeBron. It's like
yeah,
very simplified decisions. It's like you either drive or you kick it out. No real decision making there. And again, like I don't know if he'll continue to play this way. Double digit scoring again tonight. I think he also had double digits in the game against Philly, if I remember correctly. But he plays like this. Like Max Christie's playing garbage time minutes. Like he's coming in with the guys I watched last night in
yeah.
in South Bay. Which is kind of nutty for a guy that just got paid and got invested into long term. Lakers don't only hand out long term deals past like 3-4 years, and they did for Max. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to look at. But I think Cam's doing stuff that, like, if he decides to, this is stuff he can do nightly.
Yeah,
The threes are a bonus in my opinion.
I agree.
I don't see the threes as something that's a necessity, but the defense was solid. They threw him on quickly, threw him on RJ. Thought he gave both as much fits as you could
Yeah,
on the defensive end. Cam looks solid, and when I got my shoes on, like I'm running around this, like I try to prepare people for this. They didn't believe me, but
no,
yeah, I think
dude, Raj, you should take your victory lap because you were one of the folks that said until Vando comes back, Cam's got to play because he's one of the only defensive bodies that we have. And we have also said, I mean, so you were right about that. So it's just like we should make that very, very clear. Like there were not that many people who were like, Cam should play. Raj was one of the guys who's like, no, Cam's got to play because we don't think
Has to.
at the time we were there's a lot of upside on Max, so we thought like Max,
Right.
Cam, Gabe would have to find spots defensively, or JJ would have to find spots for them to play at least until Vando came back. Gabe has seen, it looks like he's also doing a little bit better now with the lineup change a little bit, and then Cam, obviously 2-0 against bad teams, but still 2-0. Like, he looked great against Paul George. Okay, like if you cut his tape and look at it possession by possession, he looked great against him. Looked solid against RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett's a little bit tougher of a
A little
player.
bulkier guy.
Post guys up and whatnot. So it'll be like, okay, we'll play Memphis. I don't think they'll have Ja, but if they have anybody back, then we'll see how he looks against them. And I'm with you, dude. Like, if we get threes from him, that's an amazing bonus. But honestly, just make your layups. If you cut to the rim or you get easy looks. Raj, today they used Cam as our off-ball play starter because Toronto was trying to get the ball out of Austin's hands. Rightfully so, because as soon as they let Austin start bringing the ball up again, he torched the entire team. So,
cooked him.
I think that's interesting. Like, in the sense that, like, Cam can bring up the ball. Like, he's not like a point guard, but he can jumpstart your offense if you need to. You don't have to force Braun to do it, even if Braun's on the floor.
Yeah, the Lakers run a lot of stuff where like their bigs initiate and their bigs play make. So it's very like Warriors-esque where like Draymond can bring the ball up, or because they're not running high. It's not Luka and Kyrie who are running 300 million pick and rolls a game. Where like right when Luka crosses the floor, that's when like the offense starts. Right, Luka crosses the court and come bring me my ball screen, and I'm gonna work in my wheelhouse for as long as I want. And Cam can do that stuff. And again, I think in a simplified role, and like where things get tough in my opinion. And this is the honeymoon phase, right? Cam just got put in the starting lineup, guy who was not playing at all, right? You put a non-rotation guy, Vinay, into the starting lineup. It's a big shift. It's a big jump. There's an excitement period there. They're winning. So right now that's the case. I just think like when losses come up, that's when like the real character of a team shows. And I'm not picking on Cam Reddish. That's just kind of how I saw a little bit tonight when we got down by double digits against Toronto, right? It was a little bit of like, oh man, again, we just went 1-4 on a road trip. We did a bad Philly team. But no, Cam played well. I want to go. There's another side of this, Vinay, which we haven't touched yet, and I think is important.
I want to make sure we carved out a nice chunk because I'm gonna take my victory lap right now. We'll go ahead.
And yes, you got your shoes on. So D'Angelo Russell goes to the bench.
Yeah.
And I've heard coaches say this a lot, and I think this is and honestly, six man have said this a lot, right? But usually, like bench players, it's tough to get 30 plus. I mean, it's just like there's two shifts of the game that you're not in 100%, right? So like, and then your minutes kind of get decided how the game flow goes. But D'Lo 26 minutes tonight, I think, was around that. Against Philly, again, that was a blowout game. Is looking a little bit more aggressive offensively, is attacking the rim more. Obviously Gabe's a better defender than what was going on, but I just think it's funny that D'Lo got benched for defense and he's playing next to Gabe and Dalton Connect. It's not a huge defensive jump.
Nope, and I think we ended up losing Raj for a second. So, I mean, I think what Raj was trying to say essentially was we see situations where like D'Lo gets moved to the bench, and this is something that happened last season too as well. And I mean, I guess I said earlier that it was like a victory lap, but it wasn't necessarily the victory lap that I was looking for. But yeah, go ahead, Raj. I was just filling some empty airspace until you came back.
I don't know what happened. I was talking in the internet.
You were talking about D'Lo.
Yeah. But I was saying, so I was basically just saying, he was 3 for 9 tonight, plus 18, and he looks like he's being a little bit more aggressive offensively. And I was just asking you, I know you're a fan of like the move to the bench to the second unit, but I guess what are you seeing so far in the 2 games that he's come off the bench? And he had the quote post game that he left his ego at the door when he was coming in. But what are you seeing so far on the basketball court from D'Lo off the bench?
Yeah, so I think this was a good move by the Lakers. I think they had to bring more balance to the starting lineup. And I think that was a problem earlier. Jelani saying there's audio issues? Hopefully not. But
I hear you clearly. So.
Yeah, I think we're good. Anyways, I think it was a good move. That starting unit desperately needed balance. Like balance. It was a very imbalanced lineup. We didn't have anybody that was like outside of Anthony Davis that was like dedicated to it, and both guys were both. We already know that D'Lo and Austin, it just doesn't work, and so I think it's been a good move. I think what's going to end up happening is D'Lo will find a better rhythm for himself. Let me separate this real quick, Raj, because I want to separate what D'Lo is playing like on since he's come off the bench as a lead guard, and
Mm,
then why I think this should have happened. I'm happy that this happened. So obviously, I mentioned the very obvious thing, which is the defensive thing, but the thing that I wanted to like kind of point out to folks who are, I'm not in Austin's camp, I'm not in D'Lo's camp. I'm in like a what's good basketball, like what makes sense
mm,
basketball wise camp, and I think Austin is his ability to score on three levels is much higher than D'Lo's ability to score on three levels. And I think that's the reason why D'Lo had to go to the bench, because Austin can handle the ball and LeBron can handle the ball, which is basically more than enough ball handling that you need on the floor. You don't need a third guy to do it. And at that point, D'Lo's scoring ability or shooting ability wasn't offsetting what we were losing on defense. So I
mm.
think the swap for Cam and him is, and there's people who've told me, Raj, that like, well, why can't Austin go to the bench? What and why does the D'Lo start? And I'll put it very simply. D'Lo doesn't want to play defense. Like he doesn't play defense like a guy that likes to play defense. He doesn't like to fight
Mm.
through screens. He doesn't like to, um, make those weak side rotations super fast. He doesn't like to help be like a low man tagger to break up a pass. He doesn't get into passing. He doesn't do any of that stuff.
The
And
charges.
yeah, I'm sure he'll take the occasion. He'll get the occasional steal and occasional block. So I'm not saying that he doesn't do it at all. But you could tell the intent of the player defensively when you watch them play. Austin does. Austin will put his face right into the shooting path of somebody to try and take an elbow to the face. He'll take charges, like you mentioned. He will scrap. He will take the switch on Jakob Poeltl and try and stand him up, even though he knows he can't. That kind of stuff all matters. And when you
Mm,
have a guy that's willing to do it and a guy who's not really interested in doing it, you have to go with the guy that's willing to do it, especially if he's better offensively than the other guy or more versatile offensively than the other guy. I just wanted to say that part because I think that like people for some reason on the timeline just don't want to acknowledge it. They're like, they're there's this assumption that like, oh, if you just go with D'Lo and Cam, you'll get better results, and I don't think you will. I don't think you get the same kind of results when you do that. Then the other part I want to put is this. Okay, he's coming off the bench. He gets to basically run his own unit. But some of his shot selection right now, at least, has been a little like, I don't know why we're taking, like, today he took, like, his first three threes were, like, off balance, falling to
mm.
his left threes. And some of them were wide open. And I was like, oh, why are we taking threes? Like, you could just catch and shoot this like normal. And he's trying to take these off balance. It's almost like he's making them harder for himself. But then eventually he got into a groove. I think he hit a floater, hit a couple
Yep.
layups, and then he hit a
Hmm.
three off the what's it called? So it's just like I think he's gonna figure out his groove with that. But he really has to be like on like full command. Like he has to play that second unit like he has full command in that second unit. It can't be one of those things where he's just like, oh, I'll just do whatever I feel like because now I'm coming off the bench and I'm not starting anymore.
Mm.
It's one of those things where it's like those dudes that are six men of the year, and I don't know if that's what he's going to end up being, but the guys that are six man of the year candidate guys, like they come in and like, oh, I'm shooting this. Like the first
Right.
six out of the first 10 plays, I'm shooting the ball because that's my job, and I really really need Austin to embrace that, or not Austin, D'Lo
D'Lo.
to embrace that because I think he can be real exceptionally good at that if he wants to be.
Right. It's some of the obviously D'Lo. I don't think D'Lo's in fear of being out of the league. Like you don't go from
Mm-hmm.
$18 million to being out of a league player, but similar kind of thing where his leverage is kind of gone in this situation, right? No
Yeah.
player option after this season. Unrestricted free agent that that anyone can sign, but a little different situation where he just doesn't have an $18 million waiting for him at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So the behavior has to be different. I think I'm not a cynical person, but I think that's why the quotes are different, right? The quotes coming out are a lot different than
Yeah.
than if it was a different situation. So that's kind of how life works. But I could see it from D'Lo's perspective here, and he's looked good. Like he had some wild threes. I also think like his touch has been better on drives. He also goes against more second units, right? So it's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more of he gets softer defenses a little bit. He gets to guard a couple of the second unit
Yeah.
guards all the time as well. He he has a in base. I was following baseball this year, Vinay, but they have like a designated hitter, and
Yep.
he kind of always has a designated defender next to him now, right? Gabe is always going to take the harder defensive matchup, no
Yep.
matter what, right? And like I kind of like him next to Gabe and Dalton. Gabe's a guy that's not really going to be offensive aggressive, and Dalton's a guy that's just waiting for a shot. And we're surrounding that with like LeBron and Jackson, who are also play finishers during the second quarter, especially. He's been solid. Like I think if the Lakers can get this from him on a nightly basis, then this is genius. It's 15 and only had one assist, when I'm a little surprised, but 15 and 15 points, around like 3 or 4 assists, I think is what they're
Yeah.
looking for. Now, does like you buy in now with the wins? I mean, once the losses come, I think again will tell you kind of the answer here. Like again, if you're winning, no one's going to say anything. That's just how
Yeah.
the NBA works. But losses kind of have a different tune to them. They have a different sound to them as well. So he's happy with this right now. I'm sure D'Lo doesn't look at it that way, because that's a direct. And JJ said this too, Vinay. He's like, this isn't permanent, which, like, I don't know when you switch back, but that's at least that's how JJ put it. And I'm not sure D'Lo wants to be snug from the starters to the bench, back and forth as well. So I'm sure he'd want some consistency here as well. But yeah, it's worked so far. You see against Memphis, who's a good team. Obviously, Ja didn't play tonight. They're starting Scottie Pippen Jr. It's kind of nuts to me, but
Yeah.
we'll see on Wednesday.
What
But
what
D'Lo's
what do
is
you
good.
what do you think the end result of this is? Because I'm actually kind of curious that if we don't have to go through the whole timeline, but the conversations between D'Lo and JJ were like a thing in this offseason. Like Laker fans were like gushing over it. They're like, "Oh my god,
He said
D'Lo's been
that's who he
talking."
texted the most.
Yeah,
That's
he said D'Lo and JJ have been talking to himself. Ham is a buffoon, and JJ's already talking and coaching up this guys. And D'Lo's like, "Oh, JJ told me a play that I've like never heard before, or something like that." He said like he texted him about a play that he like remembered that JJ
at
told him
like 2
about.
a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, like at 2 a.m. and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, like, I mean, it's we've been Laker fans for a long time, so we don't take everything that the Laker players say like with a full, like we take it with a little bit of grain of salt, especially when it's like a new coach, because it's like that
Mhm.
honeymoon period or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we come to the same conclusion. I'm just really curious to know what the end result of all of this ends up being, because I know JJ is trying to leave the door open for D'Lo to possibly get back into the starting unit, and I don't want this to be um, I don't want this to be like a punishment to D'Lo. This is more like I think this is a better situation for you to be in. But the contractual situation for D'Lo is not something that's going to go away. Like it's
Right.
Raj. We did the same thing with Ham, and do you remember how quickly like the negative quotes were coming out? There was I'm not going to point out who wrote the story. If you're in the Discord, you know who it is. But like there was a story that was written that there were 6 sources within the Lakers locker room that were like completely like out on Ham. Like just 6 different sources from the Lakers locker room saying, "What is Darvin Ham doing? Why is he running these different lineups? What's going on? Blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff." And that was a time where Darvin Ham was trying to search for a lineup
Right.
that would stick, that would work. And I feel like we're watching JJ kind of do that too right now, where he's trying to figure out how to balance these lineups out. I just don't know what the end. Okay, sorry, I'm talking a lot. I will say the one thing that's been different from the Ham time to now is we've heard nothing about JJ negative, nothing negative about JJ through this time. Rogers actually the opposite of what we've heard on the Friday game that we had. Shams comes out and says JJ's attention to detail. He's
Yeah.
passionate. The players need to follow his lead. I was just like, what? I've never
Yeah, this
heard
was this
a
was after
coach
the
get
road
described
trip.
like
Yeah.
that.
Right. Yeah. No. That was interesting. Again, I think again, 10 games is still early,
Yeah,
right? I think before things like that come out. But I remember at media day, like, D'Lo's like, yeah, we really never ran anything the last 2 years here. I was like, man, uh, we were playing a lot of random, which was true. You brought it many times. There's a lot of random basketball
yeah,
going on,
for sure.
right? But in terms of the way that it was worded, it was kind of like, man, we had someone in here who, the way it was framed, it was like we had someone in here who didn't know basketball, and now we have someone who knows basketball, right? That was kind of the framing of the whole narrative of the situation. Yeah, I don't know what the end result is. Honestly, like JJ said, this is a temporary fix to a a solution that was,
Mhm.
starting to get dire. I look at it and I'm like, well, when does he enter back? Like when you're losing, like when this starts,
That wouldn't
this
make
start,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, when this starts going bad, that's when it goes. And like you're not gonna change it while winning 100%. Like that's not when you change lineups. Maybe when Vando gets back, it shifts a little bit. Rui's also falling out of the ire of a lot
Yeah.
of fans as well. A lot of bench Rui, and my answer is for who? I mean, like
Yeah. You don't have anybody to
there's
bench for.
yeah, there's not really anyone there to come in for him. But yeah, I think maybe when Vando gets back, it changes a little bit of the chemistry of stuff. But I mean, Vando, no update still. Like on Vando, no update on Wood.
He
Two
doesn't
guys were
exist,
just
Raj. Vando doesn't exist until he's actually on the floor. Right now, if you want to check in on Vando, you can find out whoever his stylist is posting pictures of his outfits every game. Like outside of that, Vando doesn't exist, bro. I don't know when he's coming back. It's very crazy that we've gone from, hey, he'll be back. Oh, the Lakers are hopeful that he'll be back by the start of the
opening.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even Christian Wood, we haven't heard from Christian Wood since
nothing.
both those guys are supposed to be back at the start, and we're already 10 games into the season. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to be like, yeah, Thanksgiving, we'll give them extra. They're not going to rush him back. Thanksgiving weekend, they'll give him extra time. But he doesn't exist, bro. At this point, he just doesn't exist. I don't think he's a real person that's playing
Yeah.
basketball ever again.
Yeah, I think I think that's a fair way to look at it. I think that's the way the Lakers should approach it, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like there's no player coming back, so this is the roster. You kind of have to invest in, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know when this thing will get fixed, but it's funny we're here already, right? Like this D'Lo stuff
Mm-hmm.
happened in the same time last year, around the in-season tournament. Tournament is on Wednesday, by the way, for the Lakers, so they
Starts,
play.
yeah.
I believe they play the Spurs at home, if I have that, or the Grizzlies, I believe.
The Grizzlies,
Whoever.
Wednesday,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Grizzlies, I think, yeah.
Uh-huh. So we have an in-season tournament game. This is the time it happened last year as well. The Lakers benched for a different guard. They benched Austin Reeves at that time. Austin wasn't shooting well. Was coming off of Olympics, I believe, that where his legs were a little fried. But in any case, Cam Reddish got the start and started all the way until the end. And JJ's come to that same realization, which I thought he would. I didn't think it would happen this quickly, honestly. Like I didn't see 10 games in D'Lo being benched for Cam Reddish. I thought Cam would be in the rotation, but this is where we're at. Cam,
I'm just very like. There's got to be some. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall of that conversation to hear JJ explain to D'Lo why he needs him to come off the bench and just kind of what the explanation is behind it. Because I mean, if it was obvious to us that the backcourt needed to get split up, like it had to be obvious to the players. But it's just like, how are you deciding who's the one that has to sit down? And yeah.
So I think the players, again, like the whole issue from last year, right, was the players really were in love with the starters, right? That starting unit that made the conference finals run is the one that
they wanted.
The team wanted. So maybe I could see JG being like, all right, that's the team that had the best numbers last year.
Mm-hmm.
Also the lineup that the teams invested in.
Mm-hmm.
Can go with it, and we'll see how it works. And JJ is a very data analyst guy, and I'm sure he plugged that in and then was like, nope, this is not sustainable. 9 games in, we're 1-4 on a road trip with a couple of bad teams mixed in there. We got to switch things up. So I'm sure there was some messaging there. And again, like I said earlier, like D'Lo just doesn't have leverage in this place to fight it or become a nuisance in any way. And he's talking about how he just wants to win, and I'm sure that's factored in as well. But yeah, 6 men don't get paid like starters. It's just
they don't. Yeah, I think that was the number one concern. I think that was the number one thing, that the cloud that hung over it. That was that 6 men. Like if whoever gets sent to the bench will be functionally treated like a 6th man, and 6 men don't get paid the kind of money that Austin wants in the future or what D'Lo wants in the future. They're going to have to live in the teens potentially in terms of salary. So it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts. The hope is that the Cam or this new starting lineup continues to build some more rapport, more chemistry, offensively, defensively. Honestly, like if Rui hits his shots today, because he had a ton of open threes, this game probably doesn't go the way it did. We probably win this game. We're up a little bit sooner. I think Rui probably left like 3 or 4 LeBron assists, out in the open. So Bron could have definitely had an even nicer, like a 20 assist game potentially, depending on how many of those misses came out. Raj, can we pivot for a second? We've been talking about like the positive changes with the lineup and
Mm,
whatnot. Dude, our transition defense is
awful. Yeah.
awful, dude. It is still awful, and that Detroit game really brought it out. Obviously we got blitzed by a couple teams. We've seen that. But dude, the Sixers game, we go up like 13, 14, 16 points. Sixers immediately go to their bench unit and all they do is just run every single play. Hurts us. This Toronto game, exactly what happened from the start of the game. All they did was every Laker miss, they would push it super hard. What are we going to do about this, Raj? Because
Oof.
there is a you have very nicely put that there is a defensive foot speed issue for the Lakers, and
Yeah.
this is not like I noticed today. It's not just a transition defense thing. It's a if Anthony Davis isn't in the paint fast enough thing.
Yeah.
Like if he's
It's
not
over.
set in the paint, you're going to they're going to get a layup at the rim because today there were a few times where 4 guys got back. Anthony Davis gets back before Jakob Poeltl, but Grady Dick has already started driving to the lane before Anthony Davis gets set, so he gets a shot off on whoever it is that he's attacking. It was like Austin or somebody he was attacking. What
Yeah.
do we do, bro? Because this transition defense, this is a very, very. There's no other way to describe it. It is awful. It is terrible how bad this transition defense is.
I think part of this because you're not gonna like these players aren't getting faster, right? Like you're not gonna
Yeah.
change your athletic profile unless you play different guys, and I just don't think that's happening for now. And again, you just can't bench Rui or all these players at the same time. I think a lot of it too is like our shot selection kind of leads to a lot of run outs as well. A lot of the terrible threes that we take, a lot of the quick shots, little floaters that really don't have a chance. A lot of those kind of shots are sometimes when D'Lo and Austin get into their foul bait mode, some of those shots kind of lead to runouts where they're looking at the referee. And look, man, like LeBron needs to get back, and I don't know how that like can be resonated in a way. But and it's not just him; it's just I look at transition defense as a 5-man group, right? That's a
Yeah.
group unit thing. There's a responsibility there. So like whoever gets back has the first responsibility. Number one is always right. Stu says this a million times a game, but it's like stop the ball, and we're like terrible at stopping the ball.
Yeah,
Like
we
we
don't
stop
check. We don't check players until like they get to the 3-point line. Like we just let them go full sprint to the 3-point line before
right.
we
They're
actually
they're
give them
and
resistance.
by that time, yeah, they've already blown by. They're at the rim, and it's like an open corner three, or it's whatever it is. Like I'm sure JJ is drilling this in some way. He's drilling transition defense, but when you got a older and slow footed team, I see this with Milwaukee as well. But I was watching their game earlier, and they do this as well. They're very slow. Like if Giannis doesn't get back, it's kind of over for them. Even when Brook Lopez gets back, they're just a slow team. They're a slow and older team, but yeah, I don't think there's like a fix for this. I remember in before the season started, Vinay, like I asked you, you're like, or you asked me, I forgot. Like, is this team going to be a good transition defense team? And I think we both said no.
No. Yeah.
And I think that was clear, and that's kind of played out. How I thought. I thought we'd be a better half court defense though than we've been.
Ye-
I thought that would be better than it's been so far. I feel like we've regressed in the half court defense, but
Yeah, I'm. That's why I'm very curious to see if it gradually gets better with Cam being in the lineup a little bit more. Like the crazy part is like the next 4 games that we have are against not really great teams, so we're still not going to get like a true assessment of how good the defense can be until we play against some more competitive teams. The data will probably look good in the half court, after Memphis and all these other teams. But I'm with you, dude. I don't know how we fix this transition defense because this is one of those things where it's like you also functionally don't have the guys in the starting lineup that have foot speed, period, right? Rui is not fast. AD is not fast. And Braun is choosing when he wants to be fast. This is not a variable. This is a constant. Like the fact that your guys are slow. So how do you combat that? I don't know.
is that a fair excuse though for transition defense? Like we just are slow. I'm thinking about like that's an excuse to be not the best transition defense, right?
That's fair.
That's not an excuse to be last. Lakers are last currently. They're
Yeah.
right. They're behind Utah. who's obviously a young team that I believe also is injured, and then we're behind New Orleans, who I don't know what's going on down there, but they just every other week another player gets a 3 to 4 week injury.
Oh yeah, that's
But
bad there. Yeah.
so yeah, I'm not blaming them for that. I'm just saying this situation. And then it's Portland. It's Portland, Utah, New Orleans, and us. We're bottom four. We're the last in transition defense. Like the slow thing, like I've made the excuse for it. I'm just or the reasoning for it. I also don't think that's the excuse to be last in transition defense. There's a team culture thing that has to be created, right? Like the Warriors, they obviously have a lot of athletes, but they have also bought into a defensive identity,
Yeah.
right? Like they've decided this is how we win on defense. The Clippers as well, similar thing. The Clippers have decided this is how we win. We win by defending and making games ugly, and
Mm-hmm.
Norm Powell turning into OKC
Paul
Paul
George.
George.
Yeah.
Yeah,
OKC Paul George. Yeah.
that's
He's shooting
strange.
like crazy. Yeah.
It's it's
Nobody's
absolutely
benefited more than Paul George being gone than Norm Powell.
the
He's
norm.
going
Yeah.
freaking nuts scoring wise. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I want to throw that to you real quick because I don't know if that's an excuse to be last. That's an excuse to not be great, but that's not to me the worst transition defense, in the
Yeah.
league. Give me 20 points a game in transition. Like it's a ton. It's a lot.
I see, but the things, how do you? I agree with you. I don't think the effort can be so bad that the effort should be so bad that you're that bad in transit. Like you have to not try, like on defense, transition defense. I feel like, but the thing is, right? I don't know if the Lakers are not trying.
Hmm.
I sometimes like that. That's what I'm trying to ask. I was like, what if the variable isn't defensive foot speed? The variable,
Hmm.
it's just that this is the Achilles heel of the Los Angeles Lakers. It's been the Achilles heel of the Los Angeles Lakers for 3 seasons. Like
Yeah,
it's not
last year
a
as well.
1 or 2 season thing. Like it's been multiple seasons now. But the reason why we could offset it in the Vogel years is because we were just bludgeoning people in the paint. Like we were scoring in
That's a
the
good
paint
point.
all the time.
So they had a
And it's
setup on the other end.
yeah, and if you look at the game, if you look at the Toronto game today, the first half, Toronto felt like they dominated the entire paint on both sides. They were super
Hmm.
packing in the paint. We weren't making any threes. We were bricking every open three, and they were just taking shots over and over again at the rim. And then in the second half, we kind of flipped it. Right, the Lakers all of a sudden become the more dominant interior team. RJ Barrett's not bullying all of our guys into the paint, and then we start knocking down threes when they're overpacking it. I'm remembering that Hayes offensive tip that went in, I think off of Braun's pass. You see like 3 Raptors guys try to crash on him to try and get that ball. Like that's how hard that they were working to keep the Lakers out of the paint. But like we have to reach like a top 2 level of bludgeoning teams in the paint. Like we have to be that good of a team in dominating the paint in order to offset their transition defense. I don't think this team can do that. And I definitely don't think this team can do that if Braun is doing the facilitation thing that he's doing right now. Like I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know, bro. That's a good question. You could make the argument that if Rui was swapped out for Vando, if you swap
Mm,
Rui for Vando, now you have more defensive foot speed on the floor. Obviously, you lose the scoring when you
yeah. And
take
the
Rui off the
spacing.
floor and the
Real.
spacing if you take him off the floor. But
Is
outside of
that worth
that,
it?
dude, you
Is
have to
that
make
worth
a
the
trade.
trade?
Yeah, you have to make a trade and find somebody who can help you in that
Yeah.
situation. You can't downsize, right? You can't
Yeah.
go to Dalton because if you do that, now you're asking Braun to be the guy who helps low man tag and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Right. You
So
lose all
how
the
do we
physicality.
what do you think? Does
Yeah.
it have to happen internally or does it have to be an
That's
external
what I.
fix?
That's what I feel like. This is an internal change. This is a cultural change. Like I'm looking, Vinay. Like I feel like if I ask most people who's the best transition defense in the league, I don't think most would guess. You want to get two. You want to put 2 shots at it.
Best transition defense in the league. I will say one of them is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the
Uh,
other one is maybe the Boston Celtics.
so Oklahoma City is 8th in transition defense. Boston is actually they're 10th.
10. Okay.
10th. So the bet. So second is Golden State, which makes sense. Very good defensive
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Get back. But I mean, look at them. Do they have crazy foot speed? I mean, I guess Kaminga and
Wiggins, Kuminga, Melton,
yeah, I guess
Pajimski.
I,
They play small. So maybe that's why they have
Okay,
defensive
yeah,
transition.
and Draymond's just a monster,
Yeah.
as well. But the best transition defense in the league, Renee, is Houston. I
Oh
mean,
wow. Okay.
and that's with a center that's prodding.
Yeah.
I mean, Jalen Green is an athlete, but and Fred VanVleet's not a crazy athlete. He's either. So like to me, but their coach, Ime Udoka, is a very much hard, defensive nose.
Defensive. Yeah.
I'm not saying JJ doesn't push that, but that's kind of what Ime is about. They give up 8.6 transition points a game.
Damn.
Absolutely
That's
nothing.
like you can't score in a half court. You're basically screwed.
E
You're not getting easy points off of
Exactly.
us.
They
Yeah.
always get back, and they destroyed Detroit tonight. I believe, Jalen Green had an insane dunk on Cade that's, like, blowing up the internet, but, yeah, it's the best team. 3rd is Sacramento, which I think would shock a lot of people.
Mm.
Um, right behind them is Brooklyn. These aren't, like, great teams. These are just teams that have coaches that are, like, very much pushing this. Right after that is Indiana, so I like, the foot speed argument, I guess, can you can give context to, but the top transition defense teams aren't crazy athletic. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing that JJ is gonna have to figure out as the
Yeah.
season goes. I also think like just the regular defense has to improve. Like
Yeah.
80
Yeah.
cannot cover for a mistake on every single drive. Like every single drive cannot be straight line to the basket. There's got to
Yeah.
be some resistance that gets pulled. And transitions 20 points. That's what about like 15 to 20% of the scoring so far. It's just I think there's a half court issue as well. But yeah, transition's a problem that JJ is gonna have to solve. I just don't think it's purely an athletic issue.
Yeah, dude. I'm trying to think about like the Memphis game, bro. Like Santi Aldama had like a double clutch pump dunk on us in transition. That's when I was just like, all right, dude, what is going on with our defense? That
Yeah.
like we're watching stuff like this happen. And no disrespect to Santi, like he's a good player, but it's just. Do you think the athletic profile of this starting lineup still needs improvement? Because
Tweaking. Yeah.
yeah, because okay, so this is one of my concerns, Raj, that we'll get Vando back, but
Mm,
what if Vando is not the same athlete that we expect out of Vando? Because
mm.
then now you're bringing up another issue, like maybe he's faster than Rui, like more nimble than Rui is, but is that worth the trade off of losing Rui's ability to score at the rim or punish small guys? Like you could run into that situation where JJ has to make that decision too as well.
Let me parlay this into because I wanted to kind of close with this, but this is related.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if Rui is just a spot up guy, right? Like that's what he is. If that's what he is, and
Yeah,
that's kind of what he's been like for a while.
yeah.
Looking at his
Since the
shots
first
and
3 games, he's basically been a spot up guy. Yeah.
so he's taking 11 shots tonight, 5 of them from 3-point range. All the ones in the paint I thought were contested, wild, drives. He had his 2 baskets were like off cuts, I believe, from LeBron. Other than that, it's been spot up guy that just takes threes. Is that like an offensive player that's worth like $18 million with Rui's shooting ability? Like I don't think Rui's like this pure shooter either, right? Like
Yeah.
he has a good shooting numbers, and I think like in the corners when he's wide open, but like he's also not a quick twitch release guy either.
Mhm.
Like the ball needs to kind of find him wide open, and play next to Cam. It's just not happening as often. So his shots, like if you look at his shots today, Vinay, a lot of them are like with guys. He's not like contested hard, but
Yeah.
like guys are right there as well. It's not a wide open shot. I'm just watching Rui today. I'm like, man, I don't think that's who we signed. I think we signed a versatile offensive guy that can get
Yeah.
like what happened to the mid range jumper? Where did
That's what I'm saying, dude. After the
where did
first
that
3 games
go?
of the season, we've just stopped running that for him. Like today, they tried to get him. I think Toronto put Grady Dick on him, or yeah, I think
Mm,
the Toronto put Grady Dick on him, and he posted him up a couple times early in the game. He had a layup on one of them, then he
hmm.
missed a couple. Um, but then that's it. Like after that, he just turns into a run your corners, take the open three, stand around on the perimeter.
Yep,
He's not crashing the offensive glass anymore. Like he's
good point.
not. Um, like I'm already seeing some of those I mean we said this on the last spot. I was like, it's only a matter of time until Laker fans are going to start complaining about his rebounding. And I was just like, dude, he's not in position to rebound anymore. Like you've got him sitting in the corners, and if he doesn't run back on defense and he goes to crash the glass, now you've got like even less numbers on defense when it's there. So it's just, you're right. I think he's much more of a versatile scorer. We don't run anything for him like that anymore. We don't even run like easy, simple pick and roll stuff where he can just kind of face up guys with an advantage anymore. I don't know what to make. Hopefully it starts coming back. Like, because D'Lo's now another ball handler's been moved out of the unit, so maybe now at some point we'll find a way to squeeze in some of that stuff. But okay, I will say the other thing, Raj. He's also missing some like point blank stuff that he shouldn't be missing. Like he's getting some advantage situations and he's just missing stuff. The threes I get, like we want him to knock them down, but he's also getting some pretty good looks, dude, that he's not knocking down. So we need a little bit more out of him in that respect.
Is he like a in the flow offensive guy? Like you just let him find offense, through the flow of the game, kind of, right? And
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I also think there's an engagement level that gets lost with that with him as well. And it's not how it should be. I'm just saying what it is, right? You would like a guy to be engaged fully 100%, whether he touches the ball or not. It's just not how the NBA works.
Are the Lakers a better team? Okay, let's say, just to say hypothetically, Brooklyn Nets call you and they say, hey, we'll send you Dorian Finney-Smith for Gabe Vincent. Just throw us some random pick, right? Let's just say they don't even want the pick. Let's say Josiah decided to take some drugs and just say, you know what, we're just going to trade. We'll trade you Dorian Finney-Smith for Gabe Vincent. We just like Gabe Vincent. Something about him we like him. Would Dorian Finney-Smith start in the starting lineup over Rui Hachimura?
I think he would. I think he probably should. I think there's a defensive role mistaken as well here, where like, all right, you put Cam for defense, cool. So Cam's gonna guard the other team's best guard usually. All right, you got two wings. LeBron's gonna take the power forward. So now you got Rui on a wing. I don't like his defensive role, and I think this offensive role is kind of it's similar to the D'Lo thing. Strangely, it's kind of like
rhythm and volume. He's a guy who needs rhythm and volume.
Yeah. Rui, I'm sure, thinks himself as like a 17-point a game scorer who can get buckets from everywhere. What is he at for the season? Rui's at 13. I mean, that's not bad. He's shooting a blistering like 55% from three. So like he is hitting at a ridiculous rate.
Yeah. Might have just been off night tonight. Yeah.
Off night for a few games. I just I feel like there's more there. We go through these scoring droughts, Vinay, and like it's a place where like I'd love to see Rui get a side cleared for him, let him score, let him get the ball in space. Instead, he like catches it in the paint with two people around him, and he has like very, I don't know, out of rhythm pump fakes that and tries to power through. But I mean, Lakers are winning, so there's no real complaints yet. But I just see a guy that's not involved as much, and maybe this is like, picking, making things that aren't issues yet. But I just look at that, I'm like, I think there's more room to grow for him.
Yeah, I think if the Lakers end up finding a way to get a guy, I don't know how that happens, but getting a guy that can fit into that 4 spot a little bit better, more of a true 3-and-D guy. I think that the way that we describe it is Rui and D'Lo and Austin, like a ton of NBA players, they get their rhythm through volume, which means volume of touches, volume of shot opportunities, volume of involvement, whatever it is. The volume has to increase in order for him to do that. I think just with how we've been feeding Anthony Davis, getting Braun involved, how Braun has been involved, and then what Austin's been doing, it's hard to find that third level of volume. Now, to be fair, it was good at the start of the season. Like this, when we had D'Lo was kind of off to the side, he was the one who was odd man out. Like Rui was hitting. So I think there might be a point where Rui eventually starts hitting. At some point, we start seeing normal Rui. But Raj, have we been running as much organized offense as we did maybe the first 3-4 games of the season? Does it feel like it? I don't know the numbers behind it, but does it feel like we're running an organized offense?
It doesn't. In fourth quarters, I feel like in a late game situation, we definitely are a lot more organized.
ATOs are still there. ATOs have been great.
ATOs there. I thought fourth quarters, like we're pretty organized, but yeah, through the games, it doesn't feel like it. There's a lot of habits that are creeping up, a lot of isolation habits, a lot of stagnation. AD gets the ball in the post, nobody moves, right? No one goes in screens. Some of that's starting to creep up, which makes me a little concerned. But no, not as much. And maybe JJ's a little bit more hands off as the games have gone on. So there's part of that too,
Yeah.
where you want to kind of not control every possession. I'm sure some of that's going on, but I don't think so. I haven't checked the numbers either, but I don't feel like we've been as
Yeah.
organized. And some of that I think is just LeBron's passivity with how it's running is
Yeah.
forcing other things. But no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So the reason I bring it up is because I think when Rui looked awesome was when there like his number was being called. Like he knew
Right.
that this is the play to get me the ball. So I've got to commit to this play. Whereas, some guys just they don't do it as well off of a closeout read unless they're like in the flow of the game. So I'll be curious to see what happens. But really, Raj, that was that's a lot of the stuff that I want to hit on. Like Braun, how Braun has played, the transition defense, which is still a Achilles heel. We have 3 games coming up against teams that we should win against. I think actually maybe 4 games against teams that we should win. I would like to see the Lakers put together like a 3, 4, 5 game win streak before we start, start getting into December and Thanksgiving and all that sort of stuff. This is a really nice opportunity for them to do it. Teams have turned it around already. Like the Nuggets are now 7-3, and they lost Jamal Murray for 3 games, and they're 7-3 now, and now he's back. So it's like a lot of teams who were slipping a little bit to start the season have figured their situations out, and the Lakers, we don't want to lose ground. We're 6-4. We don't want to lose ground in this situation, especially in the Western Conference where things are so tight. But there's a lot of themes we're going to keep looking at, Raj. D'Lo versus not D'Lo versus Austin, but D'Lo coming off the bench. Does Cam continue to stick defensively? Does the transition defense get better? Does Rui wake up? Does LeBron decide that he wants to kick his feet up for 3 quarters before he decides to participate?
Yeah.
Play basketball? Like I was on. Last funny thing I'll say. I was in the coach's playback, the
Coach's Den.
playback,
Yes, sir.
last game, and everybody that was watching, we were like, half the people were upset that Braun wasn't shooting the ball when he had like the easy opportunities, and then the other folks were like, well, he's making plays for his teammates, and sometimes they hit his shots. His assist numbers have been good the past 2 games, so they're making his shots. But like this is one of those things where like I understand both situations where it's just like, okay, Braun, we don't have to pass up this layup. Just take the layup, bro. We want them to commit to you at some point. But I also understand him. There might be a version of this, Raj, where he's doing this because not only does he want to preserve himself, he wants these other guys to find some rhythm to start the season, so that when he does decide to start taking over, they already are in season. So I'm very curious to see how this all works. And last but not least, dude, Anthony Davis has been like freaking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that guy's been a super monster, bro. There's no other way to describe what he's been.
Absurd. Hopefully his eye is, all right.
Yeah.
Didn't return to the game. They showed a picture. I don't know if you saw it, Vinay, but Scotty Barnes, I guess, has an eye issue, and like his whole left eye is
Oh,
red.
dude, he looks nasty, bro.
Very nasty. Yeah. So hopefully AD doesn't have that issue. We haven't had any update, but last thing, I mean, this is something you've been pointing to. But Austin, in the 2 starts where he's the sole guy, 47 points, Vinay, 13 assists. No turnovers tonight. Not sure how many turnovers he had against Philly. That's not showing up here, but obviously very comfortable, on the ball. Has taken 19 threes in 2 games. So it seems like he's, feeling very empowered to like get the volume up because that volume has to come up from somewhere. I've talked about that was my one concern with D'Lo going on the bench was like the volume threes. Austin's kind of filling that void. 9 threes and 10 threes will get the job done if you're going to hit him at the percentage that he's hitting him at. 9 for 19 from 3. I'm not great at math, but that's a pretty damn good percentage in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how that picks up as well. So those are just things to look for. Let's go beat Memphis on Wednesday. Some weird back and forth between John and LeBron that was going on.
That's funny.
Very, very strange. Scottie Pippen Jr., Jay Huff, weird revenge games. Colin Castleton, weird revenge games.
Jay Huff had a reverse putback dunk like he was like prime J.R. Smith. And I was like, bro, what are we doing, bro? We're letting a freaking no disrespect to Jay Huff, but it's like we're letting this guy get like these are crazy highlights. It's not even like a good Okay, it's one thing when we get like good shoot. Okay, J Huff made 3 threes. Like that's
Right,
okay.
right.
That's one type of highlight. But like, bro, a reverse pump dunk put back. Come on, bro. What are we doing? We have to
Shout
become
out,
more
shout out
precise.
J Huff, man. Shout out Scotty Pim Jr. People who've spent seasons,
True.
multiple in South Bay. And that's why I feel like that place is important. I was watching last night, and Christian Coloco just kept taking threes. I'm like, man, this guy, why are you taking threes, man? None of these, like, just wasn't hitting anything in warm-ups, and then just tried him in the game, and like the first one was an air ball, the other one was like it wasn't close. Like, man, this 7-foot guy, get to the basket, get to the rim.
Yeah.
But
Okay. So before we let everybody go, Raj, I do want to say I probably should have done this at the start of the pod, but I do want to make sure that we acknowledge this before we close out. Uh, I want to congratulate you, Raj, on joining Clutch Points. You're like their beat guy for South Bay Lakers. So all the folks that listen to this pod, make sure that you congratulate Raj on that. If you guys know anything about my relationship with Raj, anything that he succeeds in brings me tons of joy because I don't know anybody who loves this ridiculous psychotic team the way Raj does and commits time to the team to the point where he's at those South Bay games. So congratulations to you, Raj,
appreciate it.
on taking that South Bay roll on, and I will be looking to you and I already do, but I'll be looking to you to get a better understanding of what South Bay, because I know those South Bay stat lines can be very misleading when you see guys
Yes,
put up ridiculous numbers, and
right.
I'm always going to be looking to you to give me the truth on whether these prospects are what they actually are advertised to be.
Yeah, appreciate you, Vinay, and yeah, you guys follow me there, and I'll let you know what's really going on. Maxwell Lewis had 27 points and he hit 5 threes, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, that looks real today. I'll see that in a few games, so hopefully that's real.
Yeah.
But yeah, first piece went up today, and I'll tweet it out tomorrow on Bronny and some of the quotes that came out from there. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of get that started. Obviously, nothing will change here. We'll still be doing shows about the Lakers and
Yeah.
all that, throughout. So, yeah, season's on a roll, and hopefully this team is good enough for us to kind of. It sucks when I see fans like disengage. Like I see it a little bit. When they lost, like when they went 1-4, and it's kind of disappointing. So hopefully, people stay on the ride, because it'll be an interesting one at least, no
For
matter
sure.
what happens.
Definitely be entertaining. So for the folks that ended up joining us later, you can always run this back on either one of our X accounts, or you can run it back on the Lakers detailed account on X if you want to watch it there, or you can just go ahead and wait until I upload this video and audio onto your Apple and Spotify feeds. And if nothing else, we appreciate you wherever you are, and we hope you have a wonderful day. So nothing else, we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.